let me just try this out. Okay. So my message today is basically, and the story is really about earning your seat at the table. And how do you do that? Because in law firm marketing, I worked for as an in-house marketer also for 5 years. And basically, it was always about how can we earn our seat at the table. And I tell you the secret, it is embrace metrics. You don't have to have a advanced degree in mathematics or anything, but really only if you measure something, you can really manage it, and metrics are more important than ever, so really embrace them. Since we're here so close to Hollywood, I'm not going to show you the video now, but you might have seen the show Numbers, where this cute math professor says everything is numbers, everything is mathematics. Has anybody ever seen that show? Yes? He's really cute, and most of my colleagues honestly don't look like that, but maybe I need to go over to the math school. Maybe they're cuter there, but I doubt it. Who has kids in here? So do you all know this one? Club Penguin, anyone? Yes? What does this have to do with metrics? Have you, do your kids play that?
Well, she used to, but not anymore.
Okay, but did she have, do you know those? So there are penguins here, and those little things are called puffles, right? What happens with the puffles? What do you have to do with them?
You have to, if I remember correctly, she had to get them into certain groups, organize them into.
Yeah, you can organize, but what the thing is really, and I don't know, I didn't play it in the 90s, but the Tamagotchis, anybody had Tamagotchis? No, they were all the craze in the 1990s. It was the same thing with these puffles here. They have energy levels, they have health levels, and they need rest. So my son back, a few years now, he's 13, of course, he's way too cool to play Club Penguin. But when he did, he had purchased a few puffles, and after a while, he went back in his game, and the puffles were all dead. Oh my God! You should have heard the wailing at our house, and back, he was maybe 8 or 9. I mean, they can wail really loud, right, about a puffle. And I mean 3 puffles in particular. So what you have to do is you have to feed the puffles. You have to put them to rest every now and then. So I mean, metrics are really everywhere. Metrics are in all sorts of professions. The pilots, they have certain, on their dashboard, there's certain things they when they roll on the tarmac, there are some things that they need to look for. Other things when they I still don't understand how airplanes fly, but they need to look at some things, how to get it up in the air, and other things that they have to look at when the air is the plane is in the air, and so on. So the same thing is with the metrics that we need to do. They provide a measure, they really help us manage the law firm. And I really believe that metrics can help you earn your seat at the table because, good for us, most lawyers really don't know their mathematics. So I think that we are definitely better than most of your lawyers in the firms. And apologies to everyone who's a lawyer in here. I'm sure you were an exception, but most lawyers that I've encountered, they really don't like mathematics. So start embracing that. Oh, okay, so I'm giving away part of this thing here. Because why do we need metrics now? So basically what has happened in the last few years, in the last decades in the legal industry, you all know about the DuPont legal model with convergence. So the clients use less and less law firms. They were in the early 2000s offshore service centers. Everybody loves AFAs in here, I'm sure, and the ACC came out with the ACC Value Challenge saying exactly what they want. The Real Rate Report is a report that gives you really information on all sorts of metrics in the legal industry. I will talk about that later. And then at the same time, and this is part of my other topics because I talk about metrics and procurement today, in the 1980s, procurement became a strategic business function. Why would that interest us? Well, in the mid-1990s, they developed this wonderful thing called reverse auction. Anybody here participate in a reverse or e-auction yet? A few people. You know what a reverse auction is? It's basically like eBay, where it's like, okay, 500, 550, 600, and so on, right? I mean, you go up in the price. In an e-auction, a reverse auction is basically the other way around. It's like, okay, you would do that legal service for, I I don't know, 100,000. Jeffrey would do it for 95, Holly for 80, and so on. So you basically go down in the price. So that's what an e-auction is, basically. So I'm sure you love that very much, to be put in an e-auction. And then in the early 2000s, the procurement function actually became so strategic that they became part of the boards of many companies. So their CPOs came up for the first time. And, you know, I've done the last 10 years that I've been in this industry, I've done a lot of research on how clients purchase legal services, because I always thought, you know, how can I do good marketing, business development if I don't know how people purchase, right? I need to understand what they are buying. And in the last 2 years, I've embraced what the purchasing people do. And I had looked into other professional service industries. And so, for example, engineering and architecture, they started to be involved in purchasing these services in the late 1980s, early 90s. And guess what the reaction was of the engineers and the architects? How dare they? They are not engineers, they're not architects. They don't understand what they're procuring. Well, I spoke with an engineering marketer the other day, and she said, oh, all we do is RFPs. We only work with procurement. Marketing services or accounting services, same thing. It's a lot about procurement. And now, basically, procurement has found us, as somebody called it. We are the last holy cow, basically, the last sacred cow that is being found by procurement. And so many lawyers are like, Silvia, you weren't around in the 80s. Well, at least, I mean, I was around, quite frankly, but I mean, I wasn't around in law firm marketing yet. You don't know. As soon as the economy is going to be good again, who cares about procurement? Well, if we look at other professional service, in fact, at indirect procurement in general, meaning, you know, all the different services, for example, as we had in New York, we had a few months ago a procurement conference, and the chief procurement officer of a medium-sized company, after he spoke, I said, you know, any last comments? And he leaned over and said, just want to let you know, once we have our fingers on a category, because legal is just another category, and sometimes it's called commodity. Oh my God, I shouldn't touch this. We don't let go. So I think it is unlikely that they let us go this time. We have been outside of their reach for too long. And then also this was supposed to come in last, legal operations people. So lots and lots of legal departments now have legal operations people. Those are people, I don't know if you've encountered them yet a lot, but basically they really look at the invoices in detail down to the UTBMS task code level, and they look exactly how did you staff something, how do you compare your staffing with other law firms. Do you use, for example, I'm going to show you a few slides now, what do you use in terms of different phases, et cetera, and so forth. So I hope the point is clear why you really need to brush up on your metrics, because this is now really a business change that we have seen. So what your client measure, this is a little bit small, and I'm happy to give you, with some handouts, and if you give my colleague Holly, can you raise your hand? If you give her your business card, I'm happy to give you all sorts of information. But, you know, from really, they break down the spend by practice area, by phase, by everything. So those are the kinds of things that clients look at, and they have different dashboards. So basically, you can see exactly, they look at like, what are your rates compared to others? How long do you take, let's say in employment law, right? How long will a certain case take working with you versus some others? They benchmark you against the industry, all these different things. And so when you fill in your RFPs, you really need to understand that your clients know a lot of that stuff. And by the way, I do want to say that with procurement in the picture, there is a lot of, you know, I shouldn't do that, but, you know, a lot of tire kicking going on. They do throw out lots of RFPs now, and I'm sure you lots of you have overeager partners that jump on every RFP and make you sweat over the weekends or over holidays and so on. I can really tell you, because there's a lot of tire kicking going on, you really have to have a process to say, this is an RFP that we want to pursue, and this is an RFP that we don't want to pursue. And one of the things, after having spoken with lots and lots of procurement people, if they don't allow you to contact anybody, to speak with them up front, I can only say don't participate, because then it's basically just an exercise to get the rates of the incumbent firms down. So don't even waste your time, because you're going to be sitting there the whole evening, or you're going to spend so much time for really something that you cannot win at all. A few more things, what your firm measures, and typically those things are measured by your finance departments, whether that's on realization and collection, all these good things, utilization. Those are the things typically the CFO and COO and those departments measure. So a few things what you can do. So really, metrics help you influence people that don't necessarily want to be influenced. They definitely change behavior. You can challenge assumptions, and you can measure your own success. I mean, I would really do it to say, this is what happened before you, and I loved the presentation before about the QR codes. I really want to know more about that. I mean, it's fabulous if you can really show this is how it's happening, and this is what basically your value is that you bring to the table. I would strongly suggest to have like 90-day goals and have metrics that are aligned with the business goals that you have, and really, implant them in your business plan. There are all sorts of metrics that I would say you should have, but those are basically just tallying up activity. That's great, but it really only so helpful. Others are, okay, that should have not. This is not just tallying up anymore. So those are other things that you can measure, and one that's particularly important is a debrief after you won or lost an RFP. That is particularly important with procurement. I would suggest that very often we might win for reasons that we didn't think we won, and other times we lose when we're like, we should have won that, right? So I just wanted to speak at the LMA conference next year, but I was not chosen, so I'm like, I don't know why. So I don't know if anybody can help me debrief about that. I'd love to know that. But so I mean, and sometimes you get chosen for reasons that you don't know why you won. So I think this is one of the really very most useful ones. Other ones, from cross-selling success, we heard lots of great presentations on that, and breadth and depth of relationships. I mean, as I said today, I think we learned so many interesting things. Maybe even track about their business behaviors and so forth. So really, there's a whole lot of things that you can measure. I wouldn't measure all of that. So I mean, you can all have my slides. Don't try to measure everything. Pick a few things that make sense for you, and then tie them to your business plan and have those goals, track that over time, but don't drag too many things. Pick some that make sense for you. What's really important is to create a baseline, to have the metrics that are aligned with your strategy, and then really track. So basically, it's the typical marketing life cycle. Know where you're at. Really decide where you want to be. I mean, we heard about all those goals, how to change the world. So really make those changes how you want to change the world, and then do it, and then see, well, have I changed the world? And some say that supposedly Albert Einstein said that, but I think this guy did probably so many other things. I don't know if he had time to say all these things, but at least it sounds good. So not everything that counts can be measured, and not everything that can be measured counts. And there should be a nice, I don't know if you like Dilbert. So I don't know if you can read that, but I didn't have any accurate numbers, so I just made this one up. Studies have shown that accurate numbers aren't any more useful than the ones you make up. How many studies show that? 87, okay. I've been to lots of geeky conferences recently, so pardon me. One of the last one was the ILTA conference, so this is, I guess, in line with my geeky humor at this point. You really need to be clear about what you measure. And I'm sure Nat, who does a lot of client satisfaction surveys, I think it really is important to do them well, to have them done by experts, because sometimes there have been studies where the people who said, I am satisfied with firm X, from out of 10 had like an 8.57 on average. And you know what the average was of the people who fired exactly that firm? Any guesses? 8.51. I mean, I made these numbers up, but I mean, they are pretty much indicative of this. You really need to be clear about what it is you're measuring. So, for example, client satisfaction. Any other thoughts of how you could measure that rather than just asking? Because if I ask you now, do you like my presentation? Renewals, yes. I mean, here are some other examples. So a survey return rate, right? I mean, if your clients love you, your survey return rate will be high. If it's low, you know what? You definitely are in trouble. It could be speed of collection. I know of a CMO who just gets one metric each and every day in the morning on his desk from his accounting department. It's who paid and how long it took them to pay. And so, as I said, just pick a few things that work for you. And then that's my all-time favorite, the Net Promoter Score, how likely is it that your clients would recommend you to their friends, not their enemies, right? So that's really one of the most important things. So just to, I had the first slide again as the last one. So anyways, embrace your metrics. They will help you earn your seat at the table. Enjoy them, and they're not that scary. Thank you very much.